Ladies and gentlemen, many thanks for participating to this webinar about cost modeling and concept-specific software solution TelecomCostExpert. The organizers are José van Otega and myself. I'm Business Development and Marketing Officer. And next to me, we have Jeroen van Averbeke, who is Senior Business Development Engineer. So, about this webinar, the schedule. First of all, we want to give an introduction about cost modeling. We will shortly show you why cost modeling is important for many industries, especially in the regulated telecom sector. Then we will give an extended insight in our software platform, TelecomCostExpert. We will talk about the need to have dedicated software. We will give an extended demonstration, and then we will talk about the practical steps to migrate an existing model to a TelecomCostExpert. And we will assure that there will be a lot of questions, and we prefer to have them answered at the end of the session. Some practical arrangements. The duration of this webinar will be 1 hour, 45 minutes presentation, and then 15 minutes questions and answers. You can ask a question. You will see a box on the right side of your screen where you can put in a question, and we will see that question and we will answer it at the end of the session. And after the webinar, we will send you a link so you get access to the recording of this session. And for you who are wants to discuss more in detail some specific questions, and we are pleased to discuss your own cost model activities and challenges in a specific call. Then some background about the company. Comsoft is a solid company existing already 17 years, established as a spin-off of the engineering faculty of the University of Ghent. We are specialized to develop innovative software solutions in the first place for the telecom industry. And we have 2 flagship products, TCE, TelecomCostExpert, and also FiberPlanet, a GIS-based software to design FTTX access networks on an automated way. Comsoft is a small company, nevertheless, we are operating globally. Besides a lot of countries in Europe where we have customers also in America, in the Caribbean, and Africa, Asia, and even in New Zealand. You see them on the map. Some of our customers are mentioned here on this slide. In the home market, we have, of course, the incumbent operator Belgacom, but we have customers everywhere, as you know. In the Caribbean, we will have Telesur from Suriname as customer, TSTT from Trinidad and Tobago, and you see also the logo of the Office of Telecommunications and Post in Curaçao. Now we go to our colleague. Why cost modeling?
Thank you, José, for this short introduction of our company and the cost modeling challenge. Let me first dive into an example of why the cost modeling is quite important. So assume we have 2 operators who are working in the same market, where operator 2 on the right hand side of the slide is using the network of operator 1 because this is, for example, the incumbent who has a lot of the market, a lot of the network share as well. So if the mobile user on the right hand side would make a call, then of course he has to pay a certain amount of dollars to operator 2. That's quite logical. As a customer, he will pay this charge, this rate to the operator, and of course since operator 2 makes use of the network of operator 1, there is a mobile termination rate where the second operator needs to pay, again, a certain amount of dollars to operator 1. Of course, the main question here is, what's the actual value of this mobile termination rate? How is it determined, and on which grounds will this be focused? So this is important from a management point of view, but also in a regulatory context. It's quite important that you can defend or even discuss with the regulator if a mobile termination rate is acceptable or not. So usually if you look at the actual costs that are being incurred, operator 2 will have a small amount of on-net costs for his own network and operations, and of course a large off-net cost which will have an impact on the mobile termination rate that operator 1 will receive. Seen from the other side, so also for operator 1, it's important to have a view of his costs and where the costs are being incurred in his model. So he will have a large cost on his own network, and if somebody would then call to operator 2, there's a much smaller mobile termination fee in the other direction. So this is just a small example of why you would want to model costs in your company and make some deductions based on actual facts. So it's very clear that you need a cost model to determine a fair tariff in this case. But if you look at some other use cases for TelecomCostExpert, then I briefly mentioned the regulatory discussions. So mobile termination rate is only one example. A regulator has a lot of impact and a lot of things that he will try to enforce on various operators, but with a cost model that has a solid basis and a clear view of what's going on in your company, you will definitely have a tool to discuss with him with regards to various items. The second bullet mentions the price squeeze. So again, if you have a correct view of the costs that are being incurred, you can also say you can have various insights about the cost and the price that will be charged for a certain service. The third bullet mentions the analysis of the replacement of an existing network infrastructure with a next generation. So for example, if you would go from a copper to a fiber network, what will be the impact in terms of operations, costs, and so on? This is something that can be modeled with TelecomCostExpert. The last two bullets mention the price setting of a new service. So again, if you have an existing network and you want to put a new service on top of your network, what will be the impact on various prices and costs? And more in general, the management decisions can definitely be based on what is being derived from the TelecomCostExpert model. So in all of these cases, you need a valid cost model to determine the impacts on all fronts. Let me give another small example of the management side. So the management decision, for example, if the management would start thinking about outsourcing a call center, then first of all, if you have an in-house call center, you would need to have an accurate view of the costs that you have right now. So this would be the wages that you pay the people in the call center, the cost of the office space, equipment, utilities, maintenance, and so on. The overhead costs, of course, you have also management and human resource costs on top of your manpower, training, and so on. So you have a number of costs that will be incurred by this call center. And if you would outsource it, then you can investigate what will be the cost on my total cost base, and also on each of the services, how much they will incur as costing. So this will allow, if you have two scenarios to compare, what's the advantage of having an in-house call center or outsourcing it to another company. So let me briefly explain some concepts about cost modeling and how TelecomCostExpert will work with all of the data involved here. So what you see here is a stylized model of a telecom costing model. So on the left-hand side, you have the cost sources. This is the information that's usually derived from the ledger or the accounting system, where you have values for assets, wages, services, other, and so on. So this is just an example. TelecomCostExpert is very flexible in that respect, that it's possible to have, no matter how many modules, you can model it yourself how you want to have your cost model. So there's the left-hand side, the input costs, what you derive from your accounting. On the right-hand side, you have customer services. So a typical operator will offer a number of services, and each of these will have various contributing factors. And these contributing factors are modeled in the blue blocks in between. So if we start from the left-hand side, we see that there are support processes, teams, network cost pools, and so on. Again, this is highly configurable. This is just an example. We will look at 2 more examples in the demo later on. But TelecomCostExpert allows to model this to a very flexible degree. And all of the black arrows actually indicate costs that are being allocated from one stage to the next. And this is usually derived from allocation drivers, routing factors, man-hour allocations, and so on. Then if you look at the way that we will start from the cost base, so we can have either a fully allocated cost where everything will be derived from the cost base, or you can also look into the lyric model where you will add a new service and see what will happen in the long run. We also have different ways of looking at the cost mode. So we support historical cost accounting and current cost accounting. And of course, if we look at the lyric model, then you have fixed and variable costs, increments, cost volume relations, and so on. All of these can be modeled and studied in the TelecomCostExpert tool. So if you look at a number of our clients and the historical trajectory that they went through in the last few years, then a typical starting point is having the first version of a cost model in spreadsheets. So in the Microsoft Excel platform, it's possible to put a lot of costs and allocations. You can create formulas and allocation percentages and have a first view of what the costing model is and derive from some factors. So in terms of a starting point, that's good. It's easy to use. You can have an initial result quite quickly and so on. But in our experience, the data quickly gets too big, a lot of data, a lot of references left and right. And sooner or later, we will have issues with this type of spreadsheet model. And this slide just shows some of the factors why we have experienced that spreadsheet models don't work. So they're not flexible. It's very hard to add or remove elements and allocations. If you adjust certain formulas, then you may impact sheets of the model that you don't want. Reliability is also a big risk, because if you miss some costs or miss some cells, then you will definitely end up with a wrong number at the end. In terms of transparency, it's also not very good, because you can't extract the detailed information in a standard output format. Scalability is also a problem. As soon as it gets larger and larger, you will have problems either in calculation time or in having the details, all of your numbers in there as well. And the final problem is usability. So it's difficult to work with several people, with a team on one model, because you can't share the sheet at the same time. It's very difficult to trace errors, and if you have need of different versions, for example, each year, that's quite difficult to have all of these and still compare them in an efficient way. So what we've tried to do with the TelecomCostExpert tool is make a software tool. So it's a standalone software, not integrated into Excel. It's standalone, where we allow to create your model in an efficient and scalable way. So it's scalable. We have seen customers that have up to 100,000 allocation keys created and analyzed efficiently. I'll show this a bit more in detail during the demo later on. It's also very efficient and reliable. So we have inbuilt checks during each of the stages of model creation to make sure that all of the costs that you put into the model will also end up on the other side and will be available for analysis. And the last bullet here, insightful. So we have graphical and up to 5 types of tabular reports that will help you to analyze your model to the smallest detail. And this is a graphical representation. So it's more or less based on what I've shown a few slides before. So on the left-hand side, the red blocks are the input costs, right-hand side are the services, and in between you have a number of allocation steps. So it's quite unique in this respect. And of course, based on your tabular reports, you can derive quite a lot of information. And these are some examples of results that we can get out there. So you can model retail services, wholesale services, divide into network costs, non-network costs, and so on. The bottom half of the screen shows some more resulting reports. So I won't go into the details here, but if you look at the highlighted cells, so for example, here you have $20 for regulated service A, $30 for retail service B. This is a result, but from there you can start and investigate why it's the case that this is the price, the unit price for each of these services. So that's the theory behind what TelecomCostExpert does. Let's move on to the demonstration where I will show you what in the software itself what we can do for the cost modeling. So TelecomCostExpert is shown in this screen. So it's mainly divided into two parts. The first one, as you can see on the bottom left side, is the input table, where everything in terms of allocation keys, lists of assets, wages, and so on is described. So this is the input side. And the second part is the cost model. So this is the actual model that has been made by the system and where you can run reports from. I will focus in this demo on the actual cost model because that's most interesting. And of course, here you can make the difference in terms of analyzing your business. So I will show you two sample models in this demonstration because of course we can't use actual models from our clients. It's usually quite confidential data. It's used on dummy numbers as well, so don't be too surprised if it's quite without too much details. It's all sample data that we show here, but the model that we created is representative of what an actual model could look like. So first, let's look at the simple model. So we have a model of a mobile operator. Let's look at the various modules that are available here. So the graphical view that you can directly create looks something like this. So again, quite closely related to what I've shown before. On the left-hand side, we have the wages, services, goods, assets, and so on. Intermediate modules are in blue, which show where the various costs are being allocated to. On the right-hand side, we have the voice call, SMS, voicemail, which are our end user services. I can already do some quick reporting here and then move into more detail with the tabular report. So for example, if I want to know the total cost of all the wages, I can select this here and see I have about $92 million wages in total, and I can also go a bit more in detail and look, for example, at network operations, which is $40 million, and so on. Then looking at each of the black arrows, so these are the transfer steps that bring costs from one module to another one. Then I can hover over one of these and get some information there. And also the width or the boldness of each of the arrows indicates how much costs are being transferred. I can even apply a filter and see where the main cost flows are located in my model. So we see here that voice call and so on gets the largest costing in the model. So this is purely a visualization. It's good to have, but it's well, we have much more advanced analysis systems to our disposal in TelecomCostExpert. So let's look at the report that I can generate. So I have a wizard that will allow me to create a number of reports. So these are the various steps which are used to create a report. So if I look at the first step, this will allow me to use templates. If I have one complex report defined, I can save it here and reuse at a later time for a different model or a variation on the model. So let's look at the first type of model, which is a cost overview. In the cost overview, I have to select where I want to see the costs in my model. So let's look at the sources, for example, the assets. So we have a number of assets, which are antennas, microwaves, and so on in a mobile model. So let's select them all for now and go to the next step. A cost overview only needs this configuration, nothing more than that. And if I generate the report, and I will get a view that looks like this. So it's tabular, as I have mentioned earlier. It has a number of columns and rows, and each of these will have some information. For example, the first row shows I have an element with ID 1. This is the antennas. The total cost in my assets is for this year $50 million. Also for the other ones, you can see some more information. Here already I have a subdivision that I can make. For example, the assets are subdivided into depreciation and WAC, and for each of these I can see what the cost is in absolute value and then also a relative value in the next column. So this is quite a simple model. Let's move a bit further and I'll make the same report, but now on the end user services. So I will select my voice call, SMS, voicemail, and again generate a report based on this or for these. So this gives us a bit more information because for the end user services, we have some more info available. So we have here the descriptions for each of them. For example, the voice call has a cost of $180 million. We also have information about the revenues, total revenue, and subdivided into other ones. And since we have an information about the cost and the revenues, we can also add the profit there as well. So now I've added another column, which is this one, where you can see, let's put it a bit closer over there, where you can see that the voice call and SMS are have a positive profit and voicemail has a negative profit. We can even make a quick graph of that. So let me show like this, and then we can see that quickly a visualization of the profit that's being made in these for these services. So this is the simplest type of report. Let's move on a bit further and try to analyze our model. So I'll reset my template, reset my report wizard, and go to the flow overview. So here we will see the flows of costs that are being transferred throughout the network. So let's look again at the various end user services, the three that we have, and then we can choose if we want to look at the costs that are going forward, which is not possible because it is the final module in our model, and we can also look at the costs that are coming in from the backward direction of the model. So I will add all of these, and then the final step is an overview of the report I want to make. If I create this report, then I'll get information that looks like this. So here we have some more information. For example, we see that a voice call, the costs that are being incurred for the voice call is split into network services. So some access, some core, and also some activities further, sales, marketing, help desk, and so on. So this again shows in quite a bit more detail than we previously had what the actual costs are. I can even add some more detail at this stage by adding the cost nature. So this will say what the nature is of the costs from which module of the original input modules this cost originated. So if we look at this, we see that access connection has a wages cost of 17 million, services, goods, and so on. So each time you get a more detailed view of your costing. So again, we can make a graph of this that has a bit more, has a bit more insight for a human user. So let's look at the graph like this. And here we can actually compare what's happening for each of the services. So we have three main blocks in the figure. So voice call has in red a wages cost of $58 million, and service and goods cost of $47, and so on. So this allows to show a bit more in detail, not only with numbers, but also with graphical reports, what the various things are that you can analyze from your model. So these were some quick reports based on the demo model of the mobile operator. Let's move on to the fixed operator model, which is a bit more advanced. So this has more allocation keys that you can see here. So each black arrow that you see is one allocation key. And if you look at the overview of the model, we see that we have about 266 plus some, so about 300 allocation keys. So this is the number that I've mentioned previously, that we have a few customers who went and created models with more than 100,000 keys with this software. So it's quite flexible and scalable. We can model very large cost models with this. So let's look at some reports for this more advanced model. So the first that I'll do is select a flow overview and then see where the costs are going for all of my input modules. Again, let's select the forward direction and generate a report based on this. So what we see here is we have a list of all the assets at the beginning, where we see that, for example, we have an entry for the buildings and assets, an entry for the office equipment, cabling, and so on. And we can see for each of these where the costs are going. So we have buildings and sites, which will go to maintenance and administration of technical and office buildings with the cost actual value and the cost relative value. We'll have the office equipment for the sales team that has this cost and so on. So this is quite good to see where the costs are going to. But TCE also has additional information, which is the cost driver. So I've added this second directory here that actually explains where the allocation percentages that are shown in the last column are coming from. So if you look at the building sites in the first two rows, we see that we have a building surface of in total 15,000 square meters, and each of these 15,000, so 5,000 is used for the technical buildings, 10,000 for the office buildings. And this is the set of cost drivers, or the core of the model, that will be used to well, construct the allocation percentages. So that was a flow review of the input models. Let's reset this and look to a cost overview of the resulting services. So this is the overview that we see here. So I have a number of costs that's shown here. I will not show any numbers because, as I've said, it's dummy data with not too much actual value to it. What I can show you is a unit cost. So based on the costs for each of the services and the volume in minutes, we get a unit cost for each of these services. And then if you look at a bit deeper what's going on, so if you look at, for example, the mobile to OLO underline operator is $16 per minute, and the mobile to mobile on net is $11 per minute. So this is something that can be seen here, but of course TCE allows you to analyze why this actually occurs. So let's try to find out why we have this difference in costs and unit costs for these services. And for that, I'll create a third type of report, which is a cost breakdown. I will select my two services that I'm focusing on right now, which is the mobile to OLO, mobile to mobile. So I will select these, and then I will select a number of blocks that I want to have a view on towards the backward. So let's select network building blocks and network services and non-network services. I will add these modules. As you see here, I have quite a lot of options to add more or less modules. So we have a typical training that will train our users to make sure that they know which ones to select to get which type of information. So this is a report that's already a bit larger, as you can see here. Let's try to clean it up a bit. And here I can see if I select all the mobile to OLO, that this is a total cost of $8 million, row count and so on. And if I look to the mobile to mobile, this is quite a bit more, which is $22 million. But we are interested to see where the largest cost contributions are coming from. So let's try to sort on the relative contribution for each of these services. And then you see that the mobile to other line operator has a termination fee to the other line operator of 41%. So this already explains why we have a large cost impact for this for this service. 41% of the total cost for my mobile to OLO service comes from a termination fee. So referring to what I've said in the beginning of the presentation, this is quite a large amount that needs to be paid to the other operator and has a big impact on your end costs of what will happen in the other side of your network. So this briefly indicates the usage of TelecomCostExpert, so you can see some things that are going on in your model and try to find out what's actually going on. Allow me to show some small features before handing the floor back to my colleague. So we can save reports like this in an Excel file or Access or TXT or even a central database if you will be running on the central database. So it's quite, even if TelecomCostExpert is a standalone model, we definitely allow exporting data to other formats and other tools for further processing. So we can either save this or also do a copy paste. That's also possible in this type of report. So that's about it, what I had to show for the TelecomCostExpert demo. Let's hand over to my colleague, José.
Okay, thank you, Jeroen. Can I have the next slide, please? So, to end, we want to explain very shortly the value that Consoft can give to your company by introducing TelecomCostExpert as a software tool. Today, most of the operators or regulators do have rather simple cost models, but they are not satisfied because of the reasons Jeroen mentioned earlier, or because of the restrictions of the actual software. So we propose a partnership to migrate to our reliable software platform, TelecomCostExpert. And we will do this in a few steps. You see on the slide, the first step is analyzing your current cost model. At the same time, we can suggest minor improvements, take into account that we have more than 13 years knowledge about cost modeling techniques. The second step is creating the appropriate, the previous one. Yeah, we can create the appropriate import tables starting from your existing Excel tables. Then we will import this information in TelecomCostExpert with validation to detect the faults and inconsistencies. This is very important to be sure that all the input will be correct and there are no faults in the software, in the calculation. And then when everything is in TCE, we will demonstrate the results on your telecom model. Typically, we can do this work in 1 week, and the customer can evaluate this trial version. We can give also a license of a trial version. You can play with the results yourself and make reports yourself. And of course, we will also give you an offer to get a license. Assuming that you're convinced about the added value of TelecomCostExpert and you have a license, then we will do the rollout of the software. And these are the steps. We come on site, and normally this is also work of 1 week. We do the installation of the centralized database, and also we put the software on all the workstations. We give an extended training to the people of the cost modeling team. And we have 2 types of persons with the modelers and the reporters. The difference that a modeler, they can make all the changes, can make the model, can do everything. A reporter license, they have limited rights and normally they can only see the results. Then after the installation, okay, you can work with TelecomCostExpert yourself, but we will give technical and operational support, and we will also do the installation of updates and new versions. Normally we can do this remotely, and with the maintenance contract you will get every year. We have already, of course, the support, but every year will also you will receive the new versions of the software. Okay, there is also a possibility to have an additional consultancy. This is case by case. We can customize the software. If you want to have specific features to be implemented, we can do this, of course. One of the possibilities is also that we write some customization for interfacing with other software platforms. For instance, ERP software like SAP, or connecting with other customized software you have in your company. For the cost model itself, we can also support, enhance, and extend your cost model because we have a lot of experience. And we can also support you for internal and external discussions. On the regulatory side, for instance, we can assist you to justify your results towards the regulator. Another possibility or an example is to assist you also for discussions with the internal management. They have to make decisions that are coming with the results of TelecomCostExpert. Okay, what are the benefits for the customer? You get a quick and seamless migration of your existing model. There is a quality assurance by data validation, so all the input data can be found on the result side. Simultaneous usage is possible, so there is no conflict when different users are using the software due to an effective version management. For instance, you can try to change some input tables and see the effect of it and see the differences afterwards, but you will not lose anything because everything is saved in a new version. You have the flexible reporting features. You can add specific reports, you can save them and so on, but there are many possibilities, and of course you get the technical and user support by our experts. To conclude, telecom cost models are complex, but from a spreadsheet it's possible to move to that dedicated software. TelecomCostExpert makes your cost model scalable, flexible, reliable, and insightful. Okay, you can profit from our experience with additional professional services. Yeah, that's also important. Normally we are not a financial company, but we can construct and update or you construct a new model, a simple model, or make updates of an existing model. We migrate your model to TelecomCostExpert, and important also that the possibility there is to have scripts for automated importing and reporting. We can learn how to do it yourself, or we can also help you to write those scripting. What are our customers saying about TelecomCostExpert? We have here testimonials from 3 customers, from 2 operators and 1 regulator. Some important words. our concept works very flexible and user-friendly. TelecomCostExpert gives a clear insight in your cost structure, and the software is reliable, fast, and reduce the time to report. So we come to the end, and we still have some time to answer some questions. And let me have a look to the questions. Yes, okay, there are some interesting questions coming in. I start with this one. What are the system requirements for TelecomCostExpert? That means must it be installed on a server or not, or whatever? Now, the answer is simple. TelecomCostExpert can be installed on every standard PC or laptop with an operating system Windows, Microsoft Windows. So no special requirements. It should be a modern PC or laptop. And then maybe that's linked a little bit. There's also a question about which are the database requirements. So for the database, there are actually three possibilities. We have the centralized Oracle database used by most of the customers. Then a possibility of SQL server. This is also a centralized database. In those two cases, we have multi-user access. Another possibility is to have Microsoft access, but in that case, it's only for a single user because it's on your own PC or laptop. Okay, then let me see. What is, if I want to migrate from an Excel to TelecomCostExpert, what is the speed to do this? Okay. Normally we can help, but as I already told, we are not financial consultants, but we can, if it's a big work and it should be done with external support, we have also a few partners, and they can help you with that, with creating the model, extending the model. For smaller help, we can do it ourselves, but if really you want to start from scratch, or you want to make a very extended model, we can help you to find also a partner to do that job. Okay, I think that there is a fourth question. Yeah, what's the speed of the model and report generation? Is it okay? I give over to Jeroen because he is an expert.
Yes, Jose, thank you for the question. So in terms of speed of report generation, we have, as I've said before, a number of customers with very large models, and we have made sure that TelecomCostExpert can handle these with a high degree of efficiency. So we do this with a number of special functionalities. For example, if you have a very large model with a lot of allocation keys, in the end you will have very small contributions that will fill up the report, which will be $0.00001, which are not useful at all. So we have made provisions that you can set a certain limit under which the breakdowns don't have to be processed any further. So you will be informed of the total amount of these contributions, but you will not get all the separate rows of all of these separate contributions. So in this respect, we will make sure that even a large report with a lot of details is still manageable and still gives you the ability to report on what's going on. So that's one part of the answer. Another part is, as Jose briefly mentioned, we also have as an add-on to the Telecom Cost Expert engine, an automation as well, which will allow you to perform automated tasks. So, for example, each year you will have to collect all the data from your accounting model, do some pre-processing, and put this into Telecom Cost Expert. So for this, we have developed some specific procedures and scripts that will parse the data and allow it to be put into Telecom Cost Expert. So in this respect, we allow to automate large tasks to a large degree. So that's about it. Let's hand over to Jose.
Okay, next slide, please. Okay, we are coming to the end of the session. We will send you an email with a link of the recording of this session. Now, I heard from someone told me that sometimes the transmission was not so good, so some words were missing, or maybe total phrases were missing. We will check the recording. In case the recording is not so good, we will make a new one to send to you, of course. If you want to contact us, you can go to our website or the website of Comsoft, but there is also a specific website for Telecom Cost Expert. You see the information on the slide, and you can send me an email. You see also my email address. So absolutely, and not myself, but also Jeroen, we are looking forward to hearing your feedback on this seminar. If you have a specific question, so I see that there was one specific question, but it's very specific. We will answer this by email to that person. But if you have some questions afterwards, don't hesitate to contact me or Jeroen. Have a look to our website, and okay, thank you again for attending this webinar. And a good afternoon for all of you. Goodbye. Jeroen?
Thank you for your attention, and hoping to see you again in the future. Bye.